Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Now, depending on your source, this is National Introverts Week. I've also seen sources that say National Introverts Week is the third week of March. I'm not 100% sure which is the accurate one. I've tried to find a definitive answer, was not able to track one down. But as someone who frequently identifies as an introvert, I'm always happy to celebrate us. So this week is all about films with centrally focused introverted characters. So what is an introvert? I think there are a lot of stereotypical viewpoints of what an introvert is, but I think the best description that I found out there is from Forbes magazine, which describes introverts as people who naturally turn inward, finding the most comfort in their own thoughts and feelings rather than external stimuli. I think that's really great. A little bit vague, but I think that's perfect so that you leave room for all kinds of different personality types. You might have one introvert who is incredibly shy, a little bit socially anxious, and hates public speaking, but you might have another introvert who is not at all shy, just happens to prefer his or her own company and loves to perform. There are all kinds of variations like that. So these films, I think, do a really good job of kind of showing those differences between introverts. So as always, all of these recommendations are available to you entirely for free with the use of your library card. They're going to be available on one of our video services. This week's all come from Hoopla or Canopy, but we also have a fantastic video service through CleveNet's Overdrive, so don't forget about that one as well. So without any further ado, let's jump right in to the recs. Okay, so the first recommendation for this week comes from Hoopla, and that is 1994's A Simple Twist of Fate. I adore this movie. I think I've probably recommended it way back when. I don't care. I love it that much. A Simple Twist of Fate is very, very, very loosely based on George Eliot's Silas Marner. And when I say loosely, I really do mean loosely. But there are elements from that story that are definitely incorporated in this particular film. So in A Simple Twist of Fate, we are initially following this reclusive former music teacher named Michael McCann, who is played by the absolute incomparable Steve Martin. I can't tell people enough how much they need to watch Steve Martin's more dramatic roles, because he's so good at these sort of multi-layered characters that can come from like really dark places, but layer some sorts of humor on top of it. But it's never like, you know, his King Tut brand of like satirical humor. It's just, he's great at finding levity in darker scenes. And I really, really love that about him. And he does it so well in this film, because there are some pretty dark themes going on throughout. McCann is, as I mentioned, very much a recluse. He kind of lives a really isolated life. He had some bad circumstances happen, so he's on his own. He doesn't really have close ties to anyone. And he's, you know, pretty satisfied with that existence as much as he can be. And then suddenly this infant is thrust into his life. It's entirely by chance, and it turns everything around for him. Except while he is more connected to people, he still has that distance at the same time. And I really, really like that about his character. He is close to his child and a couple of other people by the end of the film, and really that makes his entire world blossom. I mean, that's all he needs. And his connection with his daughter is just so beautiful to watch, and we get to watch that chronicle of a life existing. You know, we see her as an infant, as a toddler, as a young girl, and then as like a teen, and it's a really, really lovely arc to follow, both her life changing and adjusting, and as well as his, and then the people around them as well. You also have this sort of darker turn to the story where we discover that she's actually the illegitimate daughter of a local politician who, for whatever circumstances, I won't get into them because I don't want to spoil, ends up deciding to fight for custody of her. That's your big, conflict in the film, besides McCann's character just having to learn how to care for something else. And, that big conflict is almost secondary to those internal adjustments and changes that we see with McCann. And I really, for me, that kind of storytelling works even better than if you had one central point and that was exactly what the whole movie was about. I much prefer slice of life stories. Like, if we're, regardless of what genre we're talking about, I like things that sort of could occur every single day, or, out of the blue. It's not, some big point of excitement or contention. As mentioned, Steve Martin, incredible in this. Gabriel Byrne actually plays the biological father of Martin's daughter, and he does a really good job of being both sympathetic but also just smarmy enough to know that he's definitely the villain of this piece. You have a fantastic little secondary role by Catherine O'Hara, who I absolutely adore. I think she's wonderful in everything she does. And then, of course, the little girl, or I suppose little girls who play McCann's daughter throughout the film, they all do a lovely job. She's cute and she's charming, but without being annoying, because let's be honest here, a lot of times kids on film can be a make or break element of the storytelling, and the girls that they cast for this do an excellent job of playing Matilda, who is just fantastically real throughout the movie. As mentioned, you do have the big custody battle that goes on in the film, and that it does kind of loom over the storyline, but that's definitely, I think, secondary to that central relationship and the growth of the relationship between the father and the daughter. So I would say I would strongly recommend this film to anyone who's looking for a father-daughter movie, especially since Father's Day and everything. It's perfect time for it. Anyone who's looking for a really beautiful family story, if you're looking for something dramatic that has pockets of humor in it, if you're just looking for really solid acting, check out A Simple Twist of Fate. Fantastic movie, really easy watch, and one that you absolutely won't regret. Onward to our next recommendation. This one is also available on Hoopla, and that is 2003's The Station Agent. If you have not seen this film, you absolutely need to. I think it's just such a well done, small, independent film. So in The Station Agent, we are following a young man named Finn McBride. He's definitely a loner, definitely more of your stereotypical introvert. He, in the very beginning of the movie, has this very close relationship with this man who owns a hobby shop. They're both big time train enthusiasts, but unfortunately this one friend passes on. But when he does, he also passes along a piece of property to Finn that happens to have a train depot on it. Finn decides to go to that property and ends up living there in that train depot, which, I mean, it's very isolated. There aren't a lot of people around. It's essentially Finn's dream home. But fate does not want Finn to be alone. And I really, really did love that about this movie. He is absolutely certain of what he wants, and then the world just keeps on encroaching upon it. He ends up meeting this really chatty, really enthusiastic, uber friendly guy named Joe, who is clearly like longing for friendship with anyone. And, he sees in Finn someone that he can absolutely form a rapport with. And so even though Finn's really, really like standoffish and he's got this bubble, man, Joe just keeps on like insisting, no, we are going to be friends. And he's like this big, enthusiastic puppy. And Finn eventually starts to really let him in and develops quite the rapport with him. Um, he also finds a great deal of comfort in the friendship of a woman named Olivia, who is going through her own set of troubles. And all of these characters have these really rich backstories that we don't learn immediately, but you can absolutely feel from the second that they're on screen. It's so fully fleshed out. These actors have done such an exceptional job of creating these very, very real characters, and you get invested almost immediately in all of them. It's not like I only like this character, I only like that one. No, you are absolutely invested in all of these people that we meet, whether we're talking about Finn or we're talking about Olivia or we're talking about Emily, this little local librarian who again has her own full storyline and ends up having a friendship with Finn as well, to this little girl who we learn also absolutely is fascinated by trains, just like Finn. She's so enthusiastic about it. She even wants him to come speak to her class, and Finn's got some pretty serious reservations about it. But all of these different relationships that he has, it all is sort of causing his character to grow right in front of you on screen. He can still be who he is without losing any of it and still forming these bonds with other people. Now, I mentioned already that the acting is so good, and it's really, really anchored by the actor who plays Finn McBride, and that is of course Peter Dinklage. Most people probably know Dinklage from Game of Thrones, but he's just been this fantastic character actor for years and years and years now. He has been in so many independent films, and this was one of the first ones where I really, really noticed him and thought, this guy is an incredible, incredible actor. And, he has such a good rapport with all of the people playing opposite him. Of course, you've got Joe, the super friendly, puppyish dude, being played by Bobby Cannavale, who is one of those actors that kind of just grows on you every scene. Because I feel like when I initially hear him speak in any movie that he's in, I've got this very specific vibe that I get from him. But the more you witness what he's doing, the more you see the layers, and it's really impressive, actually. So you've got Cannavale in there. You've got Patricia Clarkson playing Olivia, whose character has this intense, tragic story going on. But she doesn't just play one note, oh, woe is me. No, again, you see all of the layers. There's so much to her and so much to why she would want to develop friendships and bonds with these other people. Michelle Williams plays Emily, the librarian that I was mentioning. Williams is always excellent. And I didn't catch the name of the little girl who plays Cleo, but she is so likable. She's every child character that you wish was in every movie. I mean, not at all like overly precocious or anything, but still thoroughly likable. She's still a kid, it's not like a tiny adult on screen, which I appreciate for what it does and what in certain films, but it's not necessarily very real. But this girl does such a good job with her. You've got definitely a shoestring budget going on, and you can tell like it's not a pretty film by any stretch of the imagination. It is definitely like guerrilla filmmaking at its best at times. I think they had like a few $100,000 to film this when they did, and it's incredible that they were able to do what they were able to do with the amount of money they had, because again, you've got this incredible cast, but you've also got very, very realistic, believable production quality too going on as well. Like, I love the little train depot. That whole set is really, 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 really enjoyable for someone who also enjoys miniature things, like train building and trains in general. I always been fascinated. Anyway, this movie is one of those films that is absolutely perfect for anyone who enjoys really brilliant acting or indie films at all. It's such a good example of what a really phenomenal director and filmmaker can do with not a huge amount of production money. Um, and again, I cannot say enough phenomenal things about the acting. It is just absolutely top tier. So, Station Agent, you definitely need to watch it. This one is my pick of the week. If you like independent film, if you like trains, if you just want something excellent to watch, make sure you check it out. Okay, moving on to our last pick of this week, and that one is going to be from Canopy this time, and it's 2014's Boyhood. Now, before I get to plot or acting or anything like that, we have to talk about the way this movie was made. I cannot even fathom how Richard Linklater was able to get this movie made. So, this is the perfect example of a love letter to filmmaking. Linklater's Boyhood took 12 years to film. I'm not talking about post-production. I'm not talking about like just getting out there, doing all of that. I'm talking about filming. So every year, over the course of 12 years, this creative team would get together, same actors, same director, and they would film a little bit. So that's 12 years of dedication to this one project. How do you get someone to back that idea? Because a lot can happen in a decade. Since we're following one particular boy, a lot of stuff can happen in a little over a decade. So you have to be pretty certain that this kid is going to be able to sustain um, a viable performance style over the course of a decade from childhood, which is, I mean, look at child actors. That's not something you see all the time. You know, someone who goes straight through and is totally fine at the end of this project, at the end of that particular span of time. You've got all kinds of other external factors. You've got, illness. You've got, I mean, I don't know if it was said jokingly, but at one point, Linklater actually said to Ethan Hawke, who's one of the other actors on this project, if I die, you're going to have to film this and finish it yourself. Most of the time, that would be like, haha. But again, it's over a decade. A lot can happen. So it is kind of miraculous that this film was ever even finished. And then add to it the fact that it is an exceptionally well done movie. Linklater always does really cool projects, but this one resulted in something that feels really special even while you're watching it. Most of the time when we get these coming of age tales where you've got a large expanse of time that's covered, you have one kid playing the boy as a child. You've got him playing another kid playing him as a preteen, as a teen, as a young adult. None of that happens. It is the same kid. We actually see him grow up on screen. That is absolutely fascinating. And you see all of the other characters age too. You see a father, a stepfather, a mother, friends. It's incredible to watch that process because it's so real. It's not done with makeup or special effects. It's actually the way the human face changes. And there's something really visceral about seeing that happen on screen, watching and witnessing the passage of time. It's kind of crazy. Beyond just that sort of weird, ephemeral, technical bit, you've also got exceptional performances throughout. Ethan Hawke plays his father, who's kind of absentee. You've got some phenomenal performance going on with Patricia Arquette, who plays the young boy's mother. And then you've got the boy, from Boyhood, Mason, who's played by Eller Coltrane, who I know nothing about. And he's absolutely magnetic on screen from beginning to end. Really, as a child, as a young boy, as a teen, you really do get invested in him. And for me, that's kind of a rarity with kid actors. It's just not the kind of film I tend to gravitate toward. So this one was just incredible. It garnered a ton of nominations, so many accolades and awards. And usually I kind of side eye stuff like that, but I mean, just such an interesting project to begin with. I really do think it absolutely deserves all of the attention that it got, because this is a commitment. I mean, a serious commitment. A lot of times projects will take quite a long chunk of time, but nothing like a decade and a couple of years. That's intense. I mean, it's not like they were working on a series of films. It's one film that they're trying to weave together all of these bits and pieces, and I'm just so impressed by this. Um if you are interested in films about coming of age stories, again, that's what you're getting here. It's a fairly simple storyline. There's nothing overwhelmingly surprising. It's very slice of life. Uh but it just has that extra weight because you're seeing all of the passage of time, and it feels so incredibly real. So if you are intrigued by the technical aspects of this movie, if you are just looking for a really engrossing coming of age story, phenomenal acting, you absolutely need to check out Boyhood. It is just such a feat of filmmaking, and I think really an incredible piece of art at the end of the day. Definitely check it out. Again, Boyhood, available on Canopy. It's a must watch. Okay, so that is it for this week's recommendations. If you have any recommendations for films about introverts that you would like to share, please, please, please put those in the comments below. I'm always, always, always looking for recommendations for movies. Love, love, love watching them. If you have any recommendations for themes that you would like to see us cover in the near future, please comment with those as well. Definitely need help in that department. Thank you again, as always, for watching. I love putting these lists together. It's really such a fortunate thing that I get to look through our catalog and see all of the different titles that are coming through, the new ones, the ones that are sort of buried in the back catalog. It's definitely a treasure hunting adventure every single time I do this. So again, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and close out this episode, and hopefully I will see you next week. Bye-bye.